Our first episode follows a Ronin Jedi, wandering with a lack of purpose, stopping for a moment in a small village, one being pillaged by remnants of the war. However, as the village begins to fight back, the true nature of our Ronin is revealed. He's not a former Jedi, but a former Sith. Despite this, he fights the remnants, squaring off against another former Sith while the miniature war continues on around them. With some help from his droid, he bests the holdovers and delivers a finishing blow to their leader. Rather than accept the thanks of the village, however, he reveals his true nature, destroying his foe's lightsaber and entrusting its Kaiba crystal to the young chief before leaving as quickly as he arrived. I think our main idea here is mistakes and the flow of life. What we see immediately are two reactions to the fall of the Sith. One who decided to grasp at their former power and pillage an innocent town, and another who seeks atonement for his mistakes. One who wears their old allegiance openly, and one who doesn't, but also doesn't hide it, fully accepting the stigma it brings. What drives this home is how he reveals his past to the village. They're ready to herald him as a hero, but without words he draws his saber, showing the red color indicative of so much death and destruction over the years. He uses it to crush the other saber and take the crystal it contains, showing the others as a sign that he's done so many times. And then he simply leaves. He doesn't ask for forgiveness, doesn't stick around to see if they provide it. Without words, he says, "I know, but I'm changing." He accepts his past and the mistakes he made, seeking to correct his path in the flow of life. We can see this with the focus on a river. At first they slice its connection to land, allowing them both to be swept up in the flow of things, like he was probably swept up in the dark side. But again we see two fates, one who tries to conquer this flow and our Ronin who accepts it and uses it. When he falls in the river, he finds his way out and gains the upper hand from it. He uses the fact he was swept up to his advantage, launching a sneak attack under the guise of the statue obscured by the waterfall. A physical pairing that says the same thing as his other actions. The past may have taken me somewhere terrible, but through the power it gave me, I can seek atonement. I will no longer be caught in the flow of mistakes, but I will not cast off the past either. I'll grow with my mistakes and evolve. As he learns, power doesn't hold within it good or evil, we choose what to use it for. In the main movies, it seems that Star Wars is about becoming something new and grand, as most stories are. But what about just being what you want to be? The second episode tackles this with the band Star Raver as they continue the journey of becoming one of the galaxy's premier groups. But there's a small snag when one of the members' parents takes issue with their choices, and it doesn't help that this parent is Jabba the Hutt. He has Boba Fett track his son down and bring him back in, as the others fail to fight off the famed bounty hunter. But all hope isn't lost as they show up at the young Hutt's execution, having convinced Jabba to let them play one last song. You think this is where things would turn into a madhouse as they break out mid-show and free themselves, traveling across the galaxy as outlaw musicians. But instead, they simply play. They do what they've practiced for probably years and rock the whole planet onto their side, even convincing Jabba to legitimize them as a sponsor. No bloodshed, just music. This is something pretty fresh that takes almost a meta-narrative about Star Wars. Our unknown lead is shown to be presumably a Padawan, running away from his duties, clearly afraid. He hangs onto his old lightsaber, but never uses it until he's forced to, and then it's too late. He hadn't used it or cared for it in years, and it breaks, allowing Boba Fett to leave without a fight. But he doesn't overcome this weakness to emerge as a true Jedi. He rejects that role, because that's not what he is. A phrase his bandmates say resonates with him, that they're just a band. So he leans into that status they chose, not just being what he wants to be rather than caving to the pressure, but also using that position to its advantage. He doesn't trust himself in a fight, as we see. There's a reason he never maintained his weapon. But look at how much he trusts himself on stage, even to call out Jabba the Hutt directly. This is the advantage he has. In doing something he loves, with skills he trusts, he's able to do much more than he ever could with a lightsaber. Sometimes it's not about a great destiny driving you to something new. It's a tempered hope, following your dreams but shifting them with the situation, owning what you are and doing it to the best you can. If everyone was a Jedi, then they wouldn't be anything special, just as if everyone was a famous musician, they wouldn't be special. Like individuals need balance within the Force, the world needs it between us all. This video may reach a different audience than usual, so some of you may not understand the next sentence immediately, but episode 3 is Trigger giving us some pure Trigger anime. This one follows two twins created by the dark side of the Force to assist in their conquering of the galaxy. However, one of them, Kare, rejects this destiny, while the other, En, makes it her entire identity. Kare steals the power source for their hypercannon and tries to escape, leading to an all-out war between him and his sister, as she takes the core into herself to reach a new level of power. But in his gusto, Kare emerges victorious, presumably freeing his sister and himself in the process. He rejects not just the Empire, but also the Rebellion, saying to hell with both sides and some feeling of destiny with either. Despite being created for a specific purpose, Kare rejects the bonds of his origin and seeks something of his own. His sister is much more confident though, ignoring his vision of her death at the hands of her own power and taking the path set before her anyway. I think this difference in confidence is key. Our origins can determine a lot for us and how most of our life goes. For some, it makes things easier and leads to confidence like hers, to devote herself entirely to something she was told to do. She's praised on all sides as they rejoice the simple fact she was born. She never has to question a single day. For others who have to break free from the chains of destiny, agony and trial is required. He only wins with some assistance from his droid and a crazy plan that somehow works against all odds. He has to go against everyone he's ever known. Fittingly, as he slices through the Star Destroyer, he leaves a trail of his own, one that couldn't have been made by anyone else, in any other way. His pain and agony led to something spectacular. I can't say if it makes it worth it or if it was good that he had to go through such things, but the end result is undeniable. En fails and Kare wins. Originality and care triumphed over the stasis of the dark side, leaving a mark like no other. Acceptance is one of the most important aspects of any situation, accepting what's reasonable and worthy and rejecting what isn't. This is the tale our fourth entry tells, as two watchers observe the people of a planet picked over by war. Stripped of its resources by the Separatists, they live simply, but seemingly happily, together in harmony with nature, even when the situation is grim. Having nothing left to take, the oppressors demand the elder as a sacrifice, and his daughter volunteers to take his place. She and her love are married the night before, each accepting the fate that has befallen them. Her sister refuses but fails to convince a sizable majority, and is captured before she can attempt to stop the transfer properly. This nearly leads to her execution, however our watchers join in, refusing to allow such a thing to occur, destroying the Separatists and allowing the village to finally live in peace, unencumbered and without sacrifice. These people live in harmony with nature and stress its importance, seemingly connected with the Force under a different name. But for how much they view nature as a pure acceptance, like how the sun will rise and set no matter what, this isn't the case. Nature may be quite accepting. It takes the rain without complaint to grow the grass, to be eaten by the animals in a cycle which it sustains itself forever. But when it's put under a strain which breaks this, it's capable of fighting back. It can send a torrent or deadly heat or blustering winds. It doesn't accept everything because some things aren't worthy of acceptance. As we see, when its resources are stripped, it gives way, offering less of itself to the inhabitants. This is what they fail to take in, allowing injustice to befall them freely. War may only lead to loss, but so can acceptance when you reject nothing at all. One of our watchers learns a different side of this, going from rejecting everything to accepting things that are worthy of it, like herself and who she is, scars and all. She is a Jedi, and that's the power she uses to teach them what they taught her. As always with the Force, find balance. Reject what you can and accept what you must. In either extreme, the result is only loss. Episode 5 is some classic production IG, a studio that loves to flex its mechanical design muscles, and one that's able to make even simple conversations engaging, something they do in the greatest thing of all time, Psycho Pass. But back on track, I think their addition to Star Wars Visions gives us a clear idea: the cost of change and what springs forward from it. We see two stories merge into one. The Jedi called here by Magrave Juro, as he seeks to put together the Jedi Order once more by crafting their famous weapons, and then the crafter himself, Lajima, and his daughter Kara. We see the whole process of their creation, from the collection of crystals through forging them into weapons, and this is by no mistake. It's a hard and intensive process on a planet that seems to have little else to it. The only thing getting this family by is hope, the wish that the weapons they're crafting will give rise to a new just order of the galaxy. The blood, sweat, and tears that go into these lightsabers, and later their creators capture as well, are the cost of their change. Nothing happens for free, and those with the will to make change for the better often pay a hefty price. This goes for some unnamed characters as well, the 5 Jedi who were slain before they could arrive. It's revealed that the gathering there, save one fresh-faced hopeful Ethan, is all Sith who intercepted the message and killed their recipients, posing as the dead Jedi. Naturally, a fight ensues as Cara gets the lightsabers there just in time, and the only ones left standing are one Jedi who is overcome by the dark side, Juro, Ethan, and Cara, only 2 of whom are fully fledged Jedi or experienced in any way. To add 2 new recruits to the Order, not only did it take the hard work of craftsmanship and the capture of the craftsmen, but also the lives of 5 others. All for some hope in the future and those who wish to make a change. There's no guarantee of what springs forward from hope. All it is the embers of a fire being kept alive by constant care. It can become a roaring blaze, or just as easily, it can be stamped out. That's why our conclusion here is the start of a new journey. It's not saying what will happen from this hope, just showing how much it can really cost. Episode 6 is relatively simple, telling the tale of T0B1, or Toby, a robot made by Professor Mitaka, as they attempt to bring life to a deserted planet. Through tireless research, they achieve this goal, or at least Toby does after Mitaka's passing. Seeking to be a Jedi, Toby looks endlessly for a Kaiba crystal, leading him to enter the basement he was forbidden from and accidentally sending a message to the Empire in his childlike glee at seeing a new spaceship. As the Empire approaches, his creator is forced to seal him away, and he awakens later to find him dead, finishing what they started and bringing life to the planet. Not soon after he does, the man who killed his father returns to finish the job. After a close fight, Toby emerges victorious and goes on looking to travel the galaxy and bring life everywhere he can, as he did here. While it may not be saying too much new, it does offer a good look into the real difference between the light and the dark, and the necessary intentions of those with power. Toby's original goal is to become a Jedi and travel across the galaxy, pulling off feats that become the stuff of legends, but while he dreams of this, he's powerless. Once he sets his sights on something new, the gift of life, he gains a much greater power and is able to best a fearsome foe, one who only seeks to rid of a threat and maintain power. Being a Jedi for the sake of it is meaningless, but doing so in order to protect the new and fresh life he brings is something that puts reason to power, instead of simply providing power for its own sake. While heroes may do amazing and incredible things, those are only the moments we remember or the legends we hear. In between those moments, there has to be something worthwhile, something as a driving force to achieve such feats. Without that, heroism is nothing more than performance. Our 7th entry follows a Master and his Padawan as they head to patrol the Outer Rim. On the way, the Master senses a disturbance and they halt their journey and head to the only inhabited planet nearby to track it down. Once there, they split up to follow their lead. The elder stays with a seemingly Sith ship, while the younger follows its owner's path through the mountains. There he finds the source of the disturbance, but in his youth he's easily bested by the experienced foe. His master arrives, and with a small assist, he's able to slay their enemy. It's a quite simple story overall, really just building up to and coming down from this fight. But after this climax, the pair has a discussion about their foe, where the master says he wasn't bested by him, but rather by time. Had their foe been younger, he surely would have killed them both easily. Asked if that makes power meaningless, the knowledge that it's destined to fade, he responds by saying it has its purposes, but still fades like anything else. This conversation sums up the points nicely, but what I really love about this episode is its accentuation by the lack of names or definitives. The characters only refer to each other by their titles, and they never catch the name of anyone else. Like power, they too are destined to fade in time. The Padawan is still too fresh in time to best those who have experienced it, but their enemy has stewed in it for too long and was bested himself. They aren't set characters, but simply the representation of the cycle of time, one which gives and takes away just as freely. One day the student will become the master and have his own student who will do the same. The master, in his very classic-feeling Jedi ways, accentuates the limiting factors on the grander elements Star Wars explores, like hope. While great moments will happen, one day they'll all be history. As far as time is concerned, we're all nameless masters and students. We have to be aware of time, not out of fear, but out of temperament. Like the master, to know when our time is, like the Padawan, to know when it isn't, lest we be like their foe who stews in it and crumbles. The 8th edition opens on a planet which has sold its resources to the Empire for technical progress, something they weren't able to achieve on their own. This creates a divide between tradition and advancement, but in a more complicated way. Lop is the main character, but she's caught between both sides. She is the adopted daughter of the respected Yasaburo family, making her the sister to Ocho and the daughter to the family's head, who form the respective sides warring based on advancement and tradition. Her sister seeks to side with the Empire, seeing the technology they provide as the only way forward to keep their planet and family alive. Her father rejects the Empire, viewing them only as a scourge to the planet and the death nail for their family. This reaches a boiling point as Ocho joins the Empire properly and tries to kill their father to ensure her methods are put in place. Lop is caught in the middle, wishing to save both her father and sister despite their differences. What's interesting about their fight is they really have the same goal, to achieve what's best for their family and their home, but they take wildly different paths to do so. Each refuses to budge, steadfast that they are correct after years of stealing the resolve under the Empire's rule, while the family member they adopted is torn apart in the middle. I think what's important here isn't some both-sidism about compromise, but understanding when to fight and what to fight for. When your goals are the same as someone else, will fighting to the death over methods do anything worthwhile? Or is it simply spilling blood to avoid compromise? This is where Lop comes into things, as although she seeks an end to the conflict, she allies with her father, deciding that their bond is too important, and recognizing the evil of the Empire's ways as a former captive. She doesn't become vengeful, but instead pushes forward for her goal, understanding the importance of the fight ahead. She's not fighting to be right, she's fighting to achieve their common goal in the ways she sees fit. Episode 9 was just about the perfect ending to the collection. After 8 stories where things mostly work out, or at least have a hopeful tone, we see one which takes the opposite stance, playing on the elements the others have brought to the table. After a hostile coup, we find Jedi Tsubaki rushing back to the side of Misa, the now dethroned and exiled princess he loves. They journey their way back to the palace with some assistance, attempting to oust the king's sister who took over in the name of the Sith and install a just system once again. Things don't go to plan, as they arrive only to have a meek fight before being captured. Tsubaki is hit with another of his recurring visions, where he sees himself becoming a cold-blooded murderer. Spurred on by a rejection of this future, he pushes forward only to make it come true. Misa, under the spell of the dark side, is forced forward in the mask of their foes, and Tsubaki strikes her down, exactly how he saw in his vision. The king's sister, who performed this feat, offers a solution. Join her and use the power of the dark side to revive Misa. He accepts, does so, and leaves the one he loves behind, now a pawn to the darkness, saying he did what he had to do. He became what his master in his own mind warned him he would be, and it's no secret why. Against the advice of his master, he rushed forward with a singular goal in mind, to reject this supposed destiny. From crashing his ship on arrival to throwing himself forward in the face of danger, his rejection became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Where the other episodes may stress hope, faith, and pursuing a goal against all odds, this one stresses the downfalls of doing so blindly. It's not about giving up and letting things be as they may, but recognizing the danger of refusing to change, even slightly, for any situation. When you have to crash your ship and death charge into the jaws of the dark side, maybe it would have been better to send someone else, or maybe even not to go at all. Signs are there for a reason. No matter how much we may wish for things to be different, that wish alone can't always make it so. Sometimes it only leads to disappointment and destruction. It only leads to the dark side. Hey there, thank you for checking out this video, especially if you're new to the channel here. Now, if you'll look at it, you'll see that mostly we've talked about anime over the years, but doing this was actually very fun, and being able to talk about something that isn't strictly anime was an interesting change. So I've been thinking about talking about some video games or some movies every now and then, so consider sticking around, because there will be some other things here as well. If you want to see more Star Wars or whatever it is, let me know down below and stick around and we can make it happen. If you're, one of the returning subscribers, as always, thank you for checking out the video, like you have been for maybe even years now, which is insane. This was a lot to put together, that just came out yesterday, and I did it all. I've just kind of been working since it came out to put this together, so it's been a lot, so I'd really appreciate a like, or just a simple comment on this one to help push it up, because it'll make the video do better and help me out, and push some content you love to other people on the platform as well. I'm always going to be open about it. Those things help with the algorithm, but that does help us accomplish the goal of making a good community and getting people to think about things they love, and that's what we're always trying to do. Anyway, I've already rambled longer than I planned to, so I'll just go ahead and say there's some important links in the top comment that will be pinned, Twitter, Discord, and most importantly my Patreon, where if we get enough supporters over there, we'll start letting you have some input on what the next topics will be with a few polls, and you can get your name at the end of videos just like this. But anyway, if you want to see a bit more before you subscribe, there's more videos on screen, and the subscribe thing as well if you're already convinced. But thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.